and I hear the first officer call out, and then the first officer jumps on the radio and he screams, "Holy shit, it's the goat man!" And I mean, it's just like everything went quiet, and I could hear the ringing in my ears, and I could feel my heart race, and so I hit my light, and I went flying up there.
I've been told by some older people, elders, that you grab them and you hold them, and you don't own them, but you hold them there until daylight. If you can hold them or pull them into the light, it destroys anything they have, any kind of power or anything they were trying to do to you. It'll destroy them.
This guy was like bouncing, like, you know, like how you see people kind of getting ready to jig, you know how they kind of bounce? Yeah, he was like that way. He was just kind of bouncing, and he was just kind of going back and forth on one foot to the other. And he just kind of turned sideways, and he turned back over to the other way, and he took off. Holy shit, he jumped in Wanda.
This is Lodge Tales. I'm your host, Rod Williamson, and thanks again for joining us on another episode. If you are Native American and you'd like to come on the show to share your strange and paranormal experiences, please consider emailing us at lodgetales@gmail.com. In this episode, I interview my cousin Terryn. We both grew up out into Medicine. You know, it's a place on the res. She's a lot younger than I am, but she's got her own set of stories of, you know, everything that's happened to her out there and stuff. So what we cover is we talk a lot about smiling spirits on this one, and there's a smiling coyote. She talks about the Blackfeet nursing home, some of the stuff that's happened there. There's some Hatman stories. We cover some UFO stories. There's a bright blue-green flash that she's seen out there too. And more about, you know, UFOs and star people we talk about in this one. There's some time loss. So I hope you all enjoy this one as much as I did recording it. It left me dumbfounded and speechless, to say the least, when we got done recording this. It's going to be a two-part series, two-part story here. We're not done with all of Terryn's stories just yet. So without holding us up any longer, let's just get into it. All right. Hello and welcome to Lodge Tales. There's another episode with my cousin Terryn. I'll let her introduce herself and go ahead and kind of lead us into her stories. All right, Terryn.
Hi, so I'm Terryn Williamson. I grew up on the Blackfeet Reservation in Browning, Montana. I actually grew up on the Medicine River along with my cousin Rod. I still remember being really little and going up to the ditch bank and jumping in and swimming with him, and he was standing there like, "Terryn, just jump. And I was like, "No, I'm too scared." But I jumped anyways, and he caught me. And but anyways, we go way back. Anyways, so I have a few different stories. So the first one that I wanted to mention that happened out at my mom and dad's house on the Medicine River, which is my grandpa Teddy's old house. It was the flood house that they had. But how do I start this? I was coming home one night and I entered my parents' house. And when I did, I walked in and I just went straight to bed. And I laid down, and I remember at the time I wasn't wearing my contacts. I only had my glasses on. So when I was laying there in bed, I know I was in a deep sleep, but I could feel as if somebody was staring at me. And I was facing the wall, so it felt like somebody was staring at my back. And I just turned over really quick, and I opened up my eyes, and I don't have good vision, but I looked at the chair that was in my room, and I could see my sister Raquel sitting there. And she had a big tote bag like over her shoulder. And I just laid there and I was like, why are you staring at me? I was like, Raquel, are you okay? And she just kind of smiled. But when she smiled, her smile kept going upwards. And it didn't stop until it reached her eyes. And it was like she had like long, like pointed teeth, and her eyes were like luminescent, as if it was like when you see like an animal on the road like at night, you know how their eyes like kind of light up?
Yeah.
That's how her eyes looked. And I was like, oh my God, Raquel. And I thought it was just like because like I didn't have my glasses on or my contacts in. And I was like, Raquel, are you okay? And she just kept smiling at me. And she got up really slow and she was walking out. But as she was walking out of my room, her head kept turning. And it like wouldn't, like an owl.
Whoa.
Like it just kept turning and turning and turning to the point where it looked like she was walking forward, but her head or her face was like facing towards me. So, and then she walked out of my room, and then I could hear her digging around like my parents' like pantry that was just like right outside my room. And I was like, in my head, I kept telling myself, I was like, oh, I'm just tired. I'm just, she's just being weird and, whatever. And I just kind of brushed it off and I just went back to sleep. But I kept hearing her digging around. I was like, oh man, she must be really hungry. And so I just went back to sleep. I acted as if nothing happened. And then I spoke to Raquel the next morning because she was sleeping on the couch. And I said, hey, Raquel, I was like, you were being really weird last night. Like, why were you sitting in my room smiling at me? And she looked at me and she said, I literally just got here.
What?
And she was like, but hey, she was like, but something weird happened to me too. And I was like, what do you mean something weird happened to you too? And she was like, well, like how you just said that I was smiling at you in your room. She was like, I was up at the trash can, and because we have a big dumpster that sits up on what is it called, Joshua Road.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's right by the gate. She said that she pulled in, and she could see like something peeking around at her, like at that trash can. And she had a flashlight in her car, and she started flashlighting it, and she was like, what the hell? Because she thought it was somebody up there.
Yeah.
And then she put her flashlight on it, and she could see it slowly peeked its face out, like halfway, but it looked like a coyote's face.
Whoa.
And she said it started smiling at her.
Whoa.
And she was like, oh, it's just a coyote. And so she turned her flashlight off, zoomed down to the house, and then she went to bed, like, fell asleep on the couch. But she, like, woke up the next morning, and she told me, she's like, but Terryn, coyotes don't smile.
Mm-mm.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you should have seen what I seen in my room last night. And we both start, like, going back and forth about what we were both seeing. And I don't know, it really both, like, freaked us out, like, really bad. Like, in my mind right now, I can still see that ugly looking thing that was sitting there that looked just like my sister. And oh my God, it almost makes me want to cry.
What? Hey, wait. So, remember that otter bundle that was in Grandpa's house?
Yeah.
Was this after it was gone? Or was
I'm
it?
not sure.
Because when we stayed there, and you guys stayed in that trailer just right over there, and you guys didn't move
Yeah.
in there yet,
Mm-hmm.
me and Amber, we were staying there, and honestly, Terryn, like, we never got bothered by anything bad. That person, that man that was I guess associated with that bundle would come out every now and then and look around, check on us, and go back into it. But like nothing bad could ever get in that house when we were there with that bundle. Like, and I was having really, really, like, I don't know, powerful dreams there about things. And also, one time, there was this guy that just passed away, and he
Mm.
was part of Amber and Am's family, but he tried to get in that house and he couldn't. He was outside.
Oh,
Yeah, he tried to get in, but he couldn't. I seen his shadow on that window of
ew.
yeah, you close the blinds and that light's kind of shining through. I seen his shadow there, and
Yeah, from like that light that sits on top of the hill.
he was like, "Hey,
Mm.
Rod, let me in." I was like, "Ooh, hey, man, you're dead." I said, "I can't let you in here," and he's like, "Oh man, come on, Rod, just let me in." I said, "You died? Hey, I can't let you in here." And he got mad, and he like grew really big. Like his shadow got really
Ew.
big, almost to the top of that window, and you know how high that is, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
like
those are big windows in there.
and his head was to the top of it, and he got wide too, like almost as wide as that whole window. And
Oh my God.
then it was just gone. But yeah, he couldn't get in there.
So, um, I'm not sure if that otter bite, because we knew of it. Like, my dad would be like, if you girls are on your moon, don't come in this room, and
Hmm.
don't come around. Like, just don't come in this room.
Yeah.
Like when you guys are on your moon, because fucking live in a house full of women.
Hmm.
But I don't. I'm not sure. I can't remember if because I do know that he transferred it over to the weather waxes,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure when he did that, but I mean, I have not gotten spooked. Oh, actually, I can tell you a story that didn't happen to me, but to my friend, but that was at her house, so.
Hmm.
So this time, it was me and my two friends. We were staying there and we were watching Alyssa, and Alyssa was maybe only like 7 or 6 at the time. She was just a little kid. And we were in high school. And we were like, yay, we got the whole house to ourselves. And we were just watching movies in my room. And I told Alyssa, I was like, just stay in here. And because obviously we were like, smoking weed.
Hmm.
And and I was like, just stay in here. I was like, I know how nosy you are, but I told her, I was like, just stay back here. And that whole day, one of my friends kept telling me, I just want to get spooked. I just want to get spooked. And I was like, okay. And I was like, that's weird. I was like, I don't, but okay. And then next thing you know, we all fell asleep. I fell asleep in my room. My one friend fell asleep on my sister's bed, and then my Alyssa fell asleep on my parents' bed, and then my other friend fell asleep in the living room on the couch. And the friend that fell asleep on the couch, she was the one that was asking to get spooked, and she woke up because she kept hearing sound like somebody was doing the dishes.
Hmm.
And so she sat up and she was like, Terryn, is that you? And I was, well, I mean, obviously I didn't say anything, but I was like, wait, what'd she say? She said that she's seen my cat Lily sitting on the floor staring into the kitchen. And she was like, Lily, what is it? And then she said she constantly kept hearing sound like somebody was doing the dishes. So she stood up and she was like, hey, Terryn. And then she looked over there. There's no dishes in the sink. All the cupboards were all wide open.
Whoa.
And she just kind of stopped and she was like, okay, I get it. And she said this out loud. She was like, okay, I get it. I don't want to get spooked anymore. And she started closing all the cupboards. And then she didn't. After that, she's kind of laid back down, just fell back to sleep. But she told us the next morning, and she was like, Terryn, I'm never wishing upon that upon myself. And I was like, I told you.
Oh.
Like, why would you do that?
Oh, that's creepy. I mean, that happened once too at my dad's house. It happened to Greg Wax. We came back and he was just sitting there close to the window. I mean, close to the TV, staring at it. And I looked at
Uh,
all of those cupboards that were open. I was like, Greg, did you do that? He said,
mm,
no. He said, no, I didn't do anything. And he just put his face back in that TV like he didn't want to see anything happening around him. It was so strange.
ew. So, I used to live in Chinatown,
Hmm.
like back in 2017. And when we lived there, oh my God, it was so creepy. Like, I remember that one time I was holding my son, and like my son was probably like a year old, and he just kind of start waving at somebody in the bathroom. And I was like, ew, baby, don't do that. And I just like shut that bathroom door really quick. And I was like, oh my God. And then our room, or well, the bedroom that me and his dad used to stay in,
Hmm.
it used to get so cold to the point where the windows would be frosted. And it'd be like in the middle of summer.
Whoa.
And it would be like, well, that one time I seen one tall black thing like standing there in the corner, and I stopped sleeping in there. I would drag out that mattress and I would just like lay it in the living room, and I was like, yep, just resi. But I would lay it out in the living room and I would just sleep out in the living room all the time. I refused to sleep in that room or Colton's room, because that one there's like a basement like thing, like a little hatch in his closet,
Yeah.
and it would like move by itself, and it would turn on his different toys. And it was, oh my God, like in the middle of the night we would hear his like little train going, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, please stop. But that one night my mom, she said that she was sleeping on our little couch because me and my son's dad were fighting that one night, and he left. So I was, sleeping on the floor, and we had the TV on, and my mom come over to stay with me just to comfort me. But she said that something was like grabbing her feet. And then she said that something started like pulling on the blankets. And then it ripped off the whole blanket itself.
Whoa.
And she just like jumped up. She was like, oh my God. And she woke me up and she was like, turn. And I was like, just ignore it. Just ignore it. And that's all I could tell her. And I was like, just don't acknowledge it. But when I'd stay there by myself and I'd be like in the living room, like on my bed, I would hear like all the kitchen drawers like just banging nonstop.
Jeez. A lot of times when that happens, they're trying to get your attention for something.
That's what I was like. Well, I didn't want to give them my attention,
I
and
know.
I was like, I just would try and ignore it. But most of the time, I would like get up and I'd be like, "Can you just stop? I'm trying to sleep." And it would stop like for maybe like a few hours, and then it would just like go back to banging and all this different shit. Oh my God, it would be so scary. I'd be so scared just to use the bathroom in my own house sometimes.
Would you ever smudge it out or anything like
Yeah,
that?
yes, all the time.
And whatever it was, just kept coming back.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me of like when I worked at the nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they used to smudge that place like monthly, they said.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have somebody like come in there and smudge it. But like the very first night I worked there, I was standing at the nurse's station, and I already got all my residents into bed, and the night was kind of dwindling down, so there was nothing happening. And it was probably maybe 1, 2 in the morning. And I told my charge nurse, I said, hey, I'm gonna go get some ice for the next rounds. And she was like, oh yeah, sounds like a good idea. So I got this big old cart, and as I was like going through that first door to go back to the kitchen, and I was by myself, I went through there, and as it shut, it sounded like I heard like men talking behind me. But I was like, oh, it's probably just like, some residents or whatever. And I went through the second door, and there I was in the kitchen. And I went to the ice box, and I started loading up our ice chest. And I could hear little girls laughing, like in the pantry area. They're like, hee 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 hee. And then I kind of stopped, and I said, I like kind of listened. I was like, you guys stop messing with me, because I thought it was the other nurses. Like, because it was my first night. I was like, they're just messing with me. And then I heard hee 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 hee. And they're like, come play with us. And I just stopped, and I was like, oh, what the hell? And I was like, these guys are taking this joke too far. And then I heard like 2 claps, like somebody clapping. And I was like, what the hell? And so I just start loading up really fast, and I start saying out loud, I was like, please stop, you guys are scaring me, you're scaring me. And then I really start loading it up fast, and they're like laughing, like those little girl spirits were laughing at me. They're like, hee 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 hee. And I just like took my cart, and I just like, ran straight back to that nurse's station. And I was like sweating, and I was like almost crying, and I told them, and I was like, were you guys back there? Were you guys messing with me? And they said, Terryn, you were gone for like maybe 2 minutes. How could we run from here to there and beat you out here? And I said, tell me right now, were you guys back there? And they're like, no, Terryn. And then here, that one charge nurse said, did you hear those little girls? And I just start crying. And I was like, yes, I heard those little girls. And she's like, they mess with you. She's like, especially when they know that you're new. And I was like, oh my God. She was like, this is why we have somebody come in here and smudge it all the time. She's like, we don't know what it is, but it just won't leave. And I've seen like different things, like big black shadows, like moving across the hall from one room to another. And then next thing you know, I find out that resident passed away. And then, like, it goes down to another hallway.
Those poor elders. They must get spooked a lot in there.
Oh, yeah. One of those residents, he, because, they had a smoking room at the nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he would always tell me, I don't want to go in there. There's ghosts in there. And I'm like, well, you can't go outside. It's too cold. And I'm like, so you might as well just come in here. And he's like, well, are you going to stay with me? And I said, yeah, I'll sit with you. So I'd have to sit there with him because he was too scared to sit in there by himself. Because he always said there was ghosts in there.
Well, that's sad.
I know.
Those poor guys. Jeez.
Yeah.
Like cedar, that I think works best. Cedar.
Cedar? Yeah.
Because Daryl says it's like, throwing like boiling water on us. That's what it does to him, I think. And
right?
Every time I've used it, I never had anything come back after that. Every time.
Well, that's what I was telling Colton, because, after, I was, showing him your podcast and stuff, he was like, I'm scared, and I was like, baby, I have cedar right here, and we have sweetgrass, and we have sage, and, because, at my work, I'm supplied with all this, and I supply it to all of our patients.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah, we have, smudge boxes, or, I'm, telling them, and then we have, little medicine bundles, and it's full of lavender and tobacco and mullein and bearroot and different types of herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Colton, I was like, don't be scared here, because I do have cedar right now with me.
Yeah, I mean, we have the power to protect ourselves. We're not helpless against those things. We just gotta pray and smudge off and smudge our areas, and it usually works.
That's what I was telling Colton. I was like, you don't have to be scared. I was like, especially not with me. I was like, I know what I'm doing, baby. I was like, I'm never scared. I used to be scared a lot of times, but I I learned how to not to be scared now,
That's good, because,
especially all the things I've seen. Ooh, or all the things that people said that they've seen on me.
oh,
I,
what did they say?
well, I'll tell you this one story about Alyssa. Well, she has two different stories that she said that she's seen on me. It almost kind of makes me want to cry
Mm-hmm.
because this was back when I was like using back in my days,
Yeah.
and I was driving. Well, all the times I was driving, but Alyssa said that this one time she said that she's seen like something sitting between me and this one guy that was sitting up front with me. But she said that its fingers were like, I can't even explain it. Like she said, like kind of waving at us, and then it'd wave at me, and then it'd wave at that other guy, then wave back at me, and then wave back at the other guy. But she said it was like something really tiny, sitting like in the middle of us, that nobody could see. She said, and then I got really mad at her and I told her to get out of my car because she kept saying, Terryn, what is that? What is that? And I was like, I don't know what the you're talking about, because at the time I was, doing drugs.
Yeah.
So I kicked her out of my car, but then she said the second time, she said she's seen me and she was in the backseat of my car because I was giving her a ride to her friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that when I looked back at her, she said that she's seen my eyes get really long, like vertical.
Oh.
Really long vertical. And my smile, like, went all the way up to, like, my eyebrow, like my forehead, pretty much. And she said that it was like, like a classic smiley face that people would draw.
Yeah.
I guess. She said that's what it looked like. And she said I kept looking back at her and I just kept smiling at her. And she just kept screaming at me like, quit looking at me, quit looking at me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I just like kicked her out of my car.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's horrible, man.
I know
Jeez.
she said she don't like talking about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But she said that she when she told me, she cried so hard. And then after she told me that, I was like, you're weird, you're tripping out. Because in my mind, my messed up mind, when I was all on drugs, I thought it was all about her. And then when she went home and she told my mom about it, my mom said that she's seen something like, I would sit at the top of the hill at my parents' house, and I would just sit there and I'd smoke cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. And my mom said that she looked out there that one time just to make sure I was okay, but she's seen something black like on top of my car. And then she's seen it like crawl inside of my car, and then it was just like sitting in the back seat.
Jeez.
Like as if it was another normal person, I guess. But I don't know. I had that written down too. Like I used to call him the guy with the baseball cap.
The guy with what?
The guy with the baseball cap.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Because I used to always see him, because I used to have a white Chevy Impala.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to always sit in my back seat. And I would have to flip up my rearview mirror just so I wouldn't see him as I was driving home.
What did he look like?
I couldn't see his face. All I could see is all black, but I could see that he was wearing like a baseball cap.
Wow. They must have just been attracted to your suffering, at the time.
Yeah.
They usually are those. They say those shadow people, the hat man will show up a lot when you're really, you know, a lot of change is happening, like in a bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things show up, and I say hat man because that's what showed up at my dad's house when I was going through a big change like that, and there was a lot of bad things going on around there. Yeah, that thing showed up there. So, tell you the truth, I'm not really surprised. It's just creepy.
Right. It was it was really at the time when my mom was like explaining it to me and my sister was like trying to tell me about it, like what she was seeing, what my mom seeing. At the time, it just like didn't faze me.
Hmm.
It just went right over my head, and I would sit out in my car for like hours and hours in the middle of the night and just not be scared of nothing.
And you,
And now I don't ever see myself being like that. Like I'd be like, why would I sit out my car for hours? That's weird.
yeah, yeah, that is. Oh, jeez. I think that's what that is that hat man thing. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, it's a kind of a common thing when people are, people a lot of times see him when they're being paralyzed by him. That's when I seen him. He did it to me 3 times in one night. But there are other
Ooh.
stories out there, yeah, when that thing comes around and it's attracted to suffering, depression, all these things, self-destructive behavior, all these things. This comes around, and I think it feeds off that. Yeah, it's a really bad spirit, though. Man, and you would just sit out in your car, not knowing it was there.
Yeah, I would just be sitting there, just smoking cigarette after cigarette.
Yeah, that thing's bad. Yeah, it's scary too because, well, you describe it. It only looked like a shadow to me the third time when it was paralyzing me. It looked like a shadow then, and it was up on the ceiling. But
Uh-huh.
the 2 time, like the first time it happened, I woke up and I didn't know what's going on. I just couldn't move. I could move my eyes, but
Yeah,
it was in the corner and it had its head down, but it had a hat on, and it was short and wide. It reminded me of that old Batman penguin guy on there.
oh yeah,
But
like dying to eat up.
yeah, it looked like that, but only thing it was short. It was like, I don't know, 3.5 feet tall, but it had a really wide hat on and it had its head down. And next thing you know, I was able to get at that. It came about halfway from that corner of the door to the bed. It was about halfway this time, and I had a little boy and a little girl with it. This time I could see them. They were like, I could see everything on them. And their faces, how they looked was like, well, they had really big eyes. And they would smile. They were all standing there smiling, but it was this ugly smile, like a mocking,
Yeah,
like,
like
yeah, it was really ugly. And to me, like, if someone has to smile at you like that, like, all I remember is like, you guys are liars. Why you think,
yeah,
like,
right?
I was thinking, that's not how you really look. I don't know what you are, but that's not really you. You guys are liars. That's what
Yeah,
I thought about them because of how they looked. They were like trying to scare me.
yeah.
Yeah, but
That's literally like maybe a few days before I woke up and I decided I was gonna move to Butte and I was gonna change my ways and I was gonna get clean and sober.
hmm
I um I had a really scary dream about like three really tall beings like coming into my room and they were like holding me down. Like I couldn't see their facial expression. I couldn't see anything. Just that they were like all black and they were just like holding me down. And they were like, I don't know, as if they were like trying to tell me something like, you better straighten up.
oh,
But like, and then here I woke up the next morning. I said, I'm done. I am done with everything. So, but I have not experienced anything creepy as when I was using, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I have an alien story I can tell you.
Yeah, let's hear that. I never heard about those.
Okay. So this one time, me and my son's dad, we were just leaving my parents' house,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just, going down Joe Show, and then we just took the left to go across the bridge. And as we were like going down Joe Show, like, right by Auntie Jolene's
Mm-hmm.
house, we were going right by there, and Roy was like, "Hey, should I load a bowl? Like give some weed?" And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And so he did. I'm sorry if I'm like mentioning this in your story,
It's
but
all right.
I mean in your podcast, I mean. But anyways, we were going down there, and as soon as we crossed that bridge, I was driving, and Roy was in the passenger, and he looked up and he said, "Hey, what is that?" And as soon as I looked up, I seen something coming up out of that coulee, like straight up, like a light.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, like a big old, like somebody had a big old camera and took a picture of us. It just like made the biggest flash. And I could see the road, I could see the grass, I could see the trees, I could see that house, I could see that coulee, I could see everything, but it was in the weirdest bluish green light that I can't even like explain. And then it went right back to like, black because we were driving at nighttime.
Whoa.
And Roy looked at me and he was like, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "I have no idea." And I was like, "What was that?" And then I was like looking on Facebook that night, and it turns out that light was seen all the way down to Missouri too. Like
Jeez.
in the same night. Like it was all over Montana where that light was seen. Because I thought it was just us. I was like, man, I was like, that coulee really got a good picture or something. But when me and Ray, we just drove all the way to town. We just didn't know what to think of it. We drove all the way back out. And this is like a funny little piece of the story that you can probably cut out. But that bowl of weed
Mm-hmm.
that we were smoking, it lasted us all the way into town. We drove around. We picked up our groceries that we needed. We drove back out to my parents' house, and we were still smoking that same. And we were like, "What the hell? These aliens like, like really do something to our weed or what?" But it was weird because we've never like experienced. We've been smoking for years, and we're like, "What the hell? I was like, "Is this the same bowl?" And he was like, "Yeah, this is that same bowl." He's like, it's not even burnt, like as if we didn't even touch it.
Whoa.
Like when we got out to our house, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, that's that space weed.
Right? That's what I was saying. I was like, "Oh my god." And then I looked at him, I was like, "Don't you dare tell people that we were smoking weed as we seen this." And he was like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Because they're just going to say, oh, you guys are just smoking weed, just being weird."
Jeez, no, that's really interesting. That's gonna stay on. That's a good piece of interesting like tidbit of the story. Wow.
Right? It was, yeah, very, very weird. Like it wouldn't burn or nothing. It was, I don't know,
You know that
very funky.
on that same road, I think it was that road. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But
Mhm.
and I don't even know who was all there. I just know it was Fanny Galbraith. Have you heard that name? She was the
Funny?
old lady that lived out by in old agency by you know how you turn to go up to Uncle Marvin's? That red
Yeah.
house right there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she lived there. That was like JJ Galbraith's mom, I want to say. And anyways, they were driving around. You know how like, they used to drive around and kind of drink, but on all those country roads and stuff. Like
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I want to say it was like my mom and them were with them. I don't really remember who was all there on the story, but apparently they seen one. Um, classic disc-shaped thing flying around, and it was scaring everybody in that car. And
Yeah.
just punch it, just keep driving. I guess it was following them. Swoop down a little close, look at them, go back up a little bit. Things like that. It was just like basically harassing them, I guess. But
Ew.
that Fanny, she says, "Oh, they got their dirty nerve scaring people like that." I don't remember where that story comes from. I just heard that and I've always remembered it because you know how those women, those old Blackfeet women are. They don't put up with
Yeah.
much when it comes down to it. They get mad.
Right. Oh my god. So
Yeah.
funny. Well, it reminds me of this one night. Me and my mom, we were sitting out on top of, at my parents' house at that floodlight that sits on that hill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like we park our cars up there now, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I parked up there like last summer or the summer before, and me and my mom were sitting there, and I just kind of like rolled down my window, and I was like looking at the night star, like the night sky, and I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. I was like, I don't get to see this like in the city. And then next thing you know, I seen it looked like two stars moving at the same time. And I was like, what? I was like, what the hell? And in my head, I was like, why the hell are those two stars moving at the same time? And I was like keeping track of them to see if they passed like, stars that were staying still.
Yeah.
And they were moving. And I said, Mom, I was like, jump out right now. These stars are moving. And she was like, Terryn, stop. And I was like, I swear to God, Mom, jump out. And I literally pushed her out of my car. And I was like, get out and look. And I like pointed up at it. And as she jumped out, we both seen them like crossing across the sky. And then one disappeared, like as if it entered something. And then she just kind of went like, oh. And then her next scene, the second one kind of disappeared into something else. And we're like, oh. And she was like, come on, Terryn, let's go inside. She was like really scared. But we watched like both those stars like go into some sort of darkness, I guess, where we can't see them anymore. But they were just flying.
Actually, it's strange. I was just talking to your dad about this today. I called him earlier, and
Oh, really?
yeah, I was visiting with your dad. I had questions about old pictures. Some of my friends on Discord were asking about old pictures, so I was trying to hunt some down.
Yeah.
I ended up talking to your dad, but anyways, I was asking him to tell some of those stories about some of those UFOs and stuff that he's seen. But
Yeah.
he was telling me a few about oh geez, I can't remember the guy's name, but apparently there is some video that he has that he's kept, and they all seen this. There was something similar to what you were saying that they seen, but he caught it on video. He caught it on
Was it in the daylight?
I think it was like toward the evening or something.
Yeah, because we all thought it was like a helicopter, but there was no noise to it. Like there was no sound or nothing. We're all just watching it. And I was like, I think I was like in middle school when that video was taken. Because I think I know what video you're talking about. Because I kept telling him, I was like, that's just a helicopter. It's just a helicopter. And he was like, well, where's the noise? He's like, what are you talking about, Terryn? And then my mom and dad were both like, Terryn, there's no noise. Like, they were both like, this is a UFO. And I was just like sitting there like, I was like a skeptical. I was like, no, it's just a helicopter that's flying really low. But yeah, he does have a video of it. And there is no noise. There is nothing. And now that I'm like, older, I'm like, holy shit, we just watched a UFO just fly by us.
Yeah, that's so
in the middle of the day. It was like in the evening, but yeah. I remember that.
Oh, I think I remember my train of thought now where I was going with that. So I don't know much about this, but I'm finally gonna say it.
Okay.
They say that we're the Blackfeet, not any other tribe, just us. We have this belief that we're star people, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that.
And that we come, anyways, there's more to that I don't want to really talk about, but yeah,
Why not?
because
You
it's like,
already brought it up. You sparked my interest.
I don't know if I should, but
Why
well,
not?
they say, you know how we like pray to certain stars and stuff, their spirits and everything like that. I've
Yeah.
heard different stories about, the Blackfeet were sent here to take care of this earth, to take care of it, right? And well, long story short, my other aunt was telling me, you know, these elders were talking to her and they were saying, don't be afraid of those UFOs because we have a relationship with the Star Nation. So don't worry about them when they mess around with you. Don't be afraid of them. And that's just us. I can't speak for anybody else, but I've heard that and it's unique to just our tribe, not anybody else's. So, from what I understand, these people that are in these certain societies, and I don't know which ones they have a really deep understanding of that, but we don't. So we're not really privy, I guess, to that knowledge. A lot of that stuff's guarded, right? Because we don't
Yeah.
want we're keepers of that knowledge because it's well, how they look at it is it's the people's knowledge. It's not just one person's. So you have to protect it to protect the people so that it doesn't fall into bad ways. It doesn't get corrupted. People start trying to do things and they'll release. They'll like cause harm with it. With knowledge, I'm talking about just knowledge. So
Yeah.
that's why I kind of hesitate to say more about what I know about it, I could tell you off air, but I kind of hesitate because, for one, I don't fully understand it. It was never fully described and explained to me. So the little,
Right? Like, do you remember that story that I told you about, like, with Alyssa?
yeah,
When she's in that big tall
mm-hmm.
thing standing on the hill that kind of waved at her and its face was, like, taking different shapes.
Oh yeah, I
So
did.
now that you're, like, talking about, well, oh man, I have, like, another alien story, but I don't, now that you're talking about this, I'm like, do we talk about it or do we not?
I say you do, but there's just certain things I don't want to say on air. I'd rather just keep, to us.
Well, the thing that we seen was really weird. I mean, I don't know what to keep to myself and what not to
Well,
say, you know what I mean?
well, say it's an old story, and it's I would just hesitate and not tell it if it's like, say, one of these old tribal, how would I
Oh
say it?
no, no. Huh, this happened to me and um a close cousin of mine and his girlfriend.
Yeah, you're fine.
That it happened to us. I mean, literally, she told me, she was like, do not say this to anybody, Terryn, because people are gonna think we're weird. And I'm like, well, this was like back when I was like in my drug use, and I was like, well, we're already weird. I was like, so not gonna, but I can tell you it though, because I mean, it literally happened to me and a close cousin and his girlfriend of mine.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so this one night I was sitting out in my car and, I was smoking a cigarette and I start seeing lights out in the trees, like, down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I start seeing lights out there, like flashlights, like people with flashlights. And so I called Alyssa, like on my phone. I was like, Alyssa, get out here to my car. I need you to see this. I don't know. I think I'm just tripping out or what. And she come running out there, and she sat in my car with me, and we watched like maybe 10 lights out in the like down on the bottom in those trees. And then next thing you know, all those lights transferred up to the top of the hill, like out in the fields, like 10, 15 lights out there, like they're like clicking them on and off, like as if they're walking, clicking them on, and then walking a little ways, and then clicking them off. And me and Alyssa were just sitting there watching them for like a good hour. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, what the But I called my my cousin, and I said, hey, you and your girlfriend should get down here because I am freaking out. And, you know, they just lived right down the road from me. And so I, like, as soon as I pulled up, Alyssa went running inside because she was freaking out too. She ran inside, and then I jumped in with my cousin and his girlfriend. And I said, come on, let's just leave this area. I was like, because I'm freaking out because the lights were gone by then. Like, as if, like, nobody was even there. And so we sat up on top of that hill, and then we were watching, and there was, like, a big old burning bright light. I still have the video on my phone, actually. There's a big old... Yeah, I will, for sure. It's like a burning light. And it looked like it was like starting a fire because, you know, it was in the summer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, we should call 911 because what if this starts like a whole like field fire? You know, like everybody's houses are gonna get burnt down here downstream because, you know, all of this is going on in my parents' house. And it was directly across the river, you know, the ditch bank up there, like sitting across that ditch bank. That's where that light was. And I told my cousin, I said, I don't think there's a road that goes up there. I said, I'm pretty damn sure there's not a road. And why would anybody sitting up there with that big of a bright of light? I said, if it wasn't a fire. But he had his own gun, and we were looking in his scope, and we could see little people, like, moving around in there. Yeah, and they were, like, moving around, and they were, like, doing different things. Like, there was, like, 3 of them in there. And in my, like, on my camera there, you can't see them. But because I, like, you know, it was just with our naked eye on the scope.
Yeah.
And that's where we could see it. And then next thing you know, it was, like, maybe 3 in the morning when we were, like, when we seen that. After we got done, like, you know, looking at it or whatever, the sun was coming up, and my cousin's girlfriend looked at me and said, I'm really scared. I want to go home. And we looked at the time, and it was like 8 in the morning. So we lost like maybe 5 hours, which we thought was only a few minutes looking at that thing.
Whoa.
Yeah. We were just... And she was like bawling her eyes out. She was like, how could it be 8 in the morning? We just got here at 3. And we're like, oh my... I was like, I don't know.
No, that's common with people that see those, well, I don't know what to call them. I'm tempted to call them star people, but I don't know what to call them. Those aliens, right? You know, but that's common. People always lose time when they show up. Those things, and they see them. Yeah.
And she always told me, don't tell anybody, Terryn. She's like, please don't tell anybody. She's like, we're going to sound like we're fucking nuts. And so you're literally like one of the first persons I've ever told of this story. Because we don't talk about this. Yeah. We don't even talk about it like amongst each other. We don't.
No, but I've heard similar stories before on different podcasts, you know, and It's my wife's got a story like that. They were doing census going up this road up by Mittens Lake trying to find this address way back there somewhere. And a 45-minute drive turns out to be like 4 hours of lost time and just
Yeah,
weird things, you know? And they couldn't believe that, like, wait, where did, you
right.
know,
Where did the time go? Oh my
no,
God.
it happens. It's a thing. And I don't know how to explain it, you know? You want to,
Mm,
my suspicion has always been this. Well, they made you lose your memory. I don't know what they did, but they come in there and they must have did something to you guys,
That's what we thought.
you know?
And that's why, like, my cousin's girlfriend really started crying. Like, I really don't want to say their names. I'm really trying hard not to say their names, but man, she really started crying and really freaked out really bad. And I was like, it's okay, it's okay. And I was like, just bring me home, just bring me home. Even though to us, it felt like they just picked me up. And like, my cousin drove me, like, literally up to, like, the front steps,
Hmm.
so close to them where I can just jump out and just run in there really fast. Because usually they'll just, like, drop me off, like, on the top of the hill or something.
Yeah.
But that time I was like, you guys watch me go inside, or, like, I'm, like, even scared to get outside by myself, like, to step outside the car. And it was so freaky.
Wait, what did they look like? Did you get a good look at them?
We couldn't see them. They just look like little figures
Hmm.
inside of, like, a burning orb, like a orange orb.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like a fire was starting, but it wasn't going anywhere. Like, it just looked like somebody had a bonfire, I guess, like, on top of the coolies. And me and, like, my cousin, we looked at each other and we're like, there's no roads that go up that far. And we're like, if they did, they'd have to hunt or something. They're not going to be, have to go up there by foot.
Weird.
But it was so. I'll send you the video though, for sure, because I still have it. Because that one night, me and my sister were watching it, and I couldn't believe I even had it on my in my camera roll.
Wow. Yeah, that.
And then
Oh, go ahead.
it cuts off at one point,
Hmm.
and then when it does cuts off, like, I don't know, it's really weird, really strange. But you can see, like, it looks like a fire is starting, but there's no fire.
Oh, that area you're talking about where it was. Okay, so just across that river, same hill and everything that you're looking.
Hmm. Yeah.
There's a place up there my dad used to always go and, he would pray and do some other things up there and he showed me that. But one day we were sitting there doing that and he was looking across there and he told me, I mean, he was sitting there doing that. I was up there with him when he was telling me this story, but he was telling it geez, I want to say it's when Grandpa passed away and he was kind of
Oh,
sad sitting up there. I went to go sit by him. But anyways, he said, "You see right across that river there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "On that bank." He said, "Just inside those trees." He said, "We seen lights." He said, I was just sitting up here and I seen those lights." He said, "What I seen was these two bouncing lights about the size of like a basketball, beach ball or something. Kind of bigger, I guess, bigger than a little small orb, I guess. But they would bounce and they were just traveling up, like toward what would it be, south? Yeah, and they were just like bouncing like that. But as he looked closer at them, in
hmm.
between them was like a window, and that's what it created in between those two lights was like this. Imagine like a, I don't know, like a transparent TV screen projecting between the two lights. And
Hmm.
what he seen was an old camp of Indians just walking. Yeah, they were
Oh,
moving camp, just walking through there.
oh, really?
Yeah, I seen like women carrying babies on those cradle boards and
Like, they were,
dogs
like, stuck in
pulling.
time.
Yeah, like they were just traveling through.
Oh my god. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's what we're kind of seeing because it looked really weird. Like, oh my god. I don't know. I can't even explain it.
but that's not the first time I've heard of lights down there. You know,
Yeah, right?
Something else about that area. I don't know if you know this, but that hairy man's down there too. Do you know that?
Who?
That Bigfoot.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it's down there too. Um, I've been waiting to try to get my wife on here. I don't know if she ever will, so I'll just go ahead and tell one of hers. So
Yeah.
about, let's see, 2004 yeah, 2004. That summer, she we had gotten in this argument, and I don't know where I went. I went somewhere, but we were staying at Grandpa's house, and she said, "Oh, I'm just gonna go for a walk." So I just headed out too. And I don't know how it went. I think I left, then she went for a walk. Yeah, that's how it went. I went to town, and she went for a walk, and
Mhm.
she walked down, down toward that slough. You get well,
Oh, yeah.
so you go down on the bottom on Chi-Chi's side, and then you go through our bottom, and then you're
Yeah.
down, getting further toward that slough. She said all of a sudden, she said it just got really quiet, like really, really quiet. And she doesn't know what that was, but there was this little hairy man standing in a tree. He wasn't too little. The way she talks about him is he was shorter, but he was up in this tree, and he was like holding a branch above his head, like, and then he was standing on a branch. But that's how he was kind of wedged in there, and he was just shaking that whole tree.
Oh.
And like the whole, she said, whatever, it was really strong. She said, I couldn't believe what I, seen. And when I looked at it, it looked at me. And she said, when it looked at me, it was wondering, should I go get her? What should I do? It was like pondering what it was going to do to Amber. And
Oh my god.
she didn't wait. She just ran back up that road into our bottom. And through that, and the whole time it was pacing her. But
Mhm.
it was in the trees, like in those bushes and stuff. See, let me back up. When she decided to run was when it jumped off of that tree, and it jumped down on the ground. But when it did, it
Yeah.
disappeared, just poof, gone. And she's like, "What the heck is it? Where did it?" She didn't care. She just ran. But she could hear it pacing her in that tree line to her left, and she was running all the way up the road. She gets into our bottom, clears that, gets through those trees, and is heading up that road right there. That thing was still right there, and it was really, really close to her. She said the only thing that saved me that day, Rod, was those dogs. Those dogs come running out, and they just started barking and bark. I just ran right toward them. They ran right by me, and then they were back up at the house right with me. Right after that, they didn't stay down there long at all. And those dogs, they'll chase something down until it's dead or gone.
Yeah, right.
They're like relentless. No, they came right back with her. So whatever it was must have scared them too. I don't know.
Hmm. Ew, that's ugly.
Yeah, but
Oh, that's good.
it's down there. That guy's down there. I could I could show you exactly where I think I found one of its places where it, I don't know, camps, hides out, whatever. So Terryn will be back, and we'll continue our discussion in part 2. I'll mix her stories in with Mike Conley. He comes back again, and he's got a lot of really, really great stories about another hat man, and well, what he calls is a devil on top of Town Pump. It's a gas station on a reservation, and it kind of watches people come and go. He also retells another story about when it was jumping in front of cars on top of this place called Snowshed Hill. There's a bridge up there, and it was trying to, jump in front of cars. People were calling in. And then there's another one where a guy gets chased by that devil, if you will. and his, running for, I guess, dear life, and he runs up to a housing security car, and gets help from there. He's all bleeding and cut up in his back and stuff. It's pretty intense. And Mike will talk more about stories about the jailhouse, and the hauntings that go on there. And his part's pretty short, and the rest of Terryn's episode's about another 30-40 minutes. So I'll mix those both in, and that'll be on a Patreon episode for next release. And again, I'd like to thank all patrons and listeners, everybody here that joins us, and all the new listeners on our Facebook page, that have joined the Lodge Tales group. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in and, well, just being there to listen to our stories. There's some really good ones here. I appreciate all the support and all the interest that, we've garnered here. I have a lot of interviews scheduled that are coming up, so hopefully, we keep the ball rolling, and hopefully more people come out and, contact me and, get their stories out there. Thank you all again for being here. I appreciate it. Till next time, we'll see you.